There I am. Hey guys, welcome. This is Lead with Intent. I am your host, Dr. Denise Simpson. I'm so glad you guys are here. And if you're watching the replay, please make sure you comment, say hello, tell us where you're from. I am so happy to be back. I know I was gone for a few weeks, so I wasn't able to do live shows with you, but I am here now and refreshed and ready to serve. So before we get started, I want to share this live into my private Facebook group. So hang on a second for me while I share. I think we're good. So yeah, so if you're watching live, say hello. If you're watching the replay, say hello. We still appreciate engagement and we still appreciate your comments. So I am your host, Dr. Denise Simpson. This is Lead with Intent. So on a weekly basis, we do a live show where we conscientious leaders gather so that we can talk about mindset, skill set, and the behaviors that leaders take. And so I am back with you live. I'm so happy to be with you guys. Happy to be here. I'm refreshed and ready, like I said, to serve you. So today's topic is on minding the gap. And so the reason why I'm streaming into my private Facebook group called Align 365 is because we've talked about how to mind the gap in there. And I'm going to explain what that means in just a bit. But before we do that, will you all please share with me some of your wins? Now, you guys know at the top of every session, we talk about wins. So comment below, let me know what your wins are. We are here to celebrate each other. We are here to celebrate the struggle, honor the struggle, and celebrate our accomplishments. So please use the hashtag wins below so that we can comment on your success and your achievements. So thank you so much. Welcome. Let's get into this subject on how to mind the gap. So before we get into the coaching I'm going to do today, let me explain what mind the gap means. So while we were traveling in England, we had a 5-hour train ride through the English countryside. Now that was not on purpose. I'll give you some backstory here so you can understand why we were on a 5-hour train ride. We were in Southampton, England, and we were awaiting our flight into Manchester. So Manchester, we were going to stay the night in Manchester so that we could fly out back to the US after a 3-week trip, fly back to the US the following morning. So we could not miss the flight into Manchester. So we get to the airport, there was already a delay. We waited another hour or so, there was yet more of a delay. And so finally they canceled all flights into Manchester that day. And this was about maybe 1 p.m. That afternoon. And so we were desperate to get to Manchester because we did not want to miss our flight into the US the following morning. So the travel person, the registration person helped us and said, there's a train station right outside our doors here. The only way to get to Manchester at this point, and the fastest way to get to Manchester is on this train ride, and it's a few hours long, but it'll get you there tonight so that you don't miss your flight the following day. And so that's exactly what we did. We lugged our giant bags, 3 weeks worth of crap. Because again, this was not a vacation. So if you've been following my Instagram stories or my Facebook stories, and you know that this was not a vacation. This was work. I think we only had one day where we actually did a tour of a castle in Wales, and that was pretty much it. So the rest of the time it was filled with working on business, and then my husband filming a documentary. So we lugged our things over to the train station, and we get our tickets, and we're awaiting our train ride, and we finally get on. And as we're getting onto the train, the announcer says, mind the gap. And so he kept saying, mind the gap. And I realized, it's the gap between the platform and the train. And it was about 8 inches or so. And, I have a size 5 foot, so it would have been really dangerous if I, if I didn't mind the gap. And so there was about a dozen or so stops. And, I kept hearing the announcer tell the commuters, and this was, a daily commute for many people, this, an everyday commute for these travelers who worked outside of their cities. And so we were there with our luggage like fools on a 5-hour train ride into Manchester while people were commuting to and from work. So there was about a dozen or so stops, and I kept hearing, mind the gap, mind the gap. And so I couldn't help but think of the gap that I was currently in. And so let me explain. In the Facebook group, Line 365, if you're not in there, you should be in there. It's a group of deliberate creators. We are, deliberately and intentionally creating a life that we love because we deserve it. So it's a group of folks in there, and we do monthly challenges. And what we did was we selected a challenge for this month. And that was day 1 prompt. Day 2 was to mind the gap. And so, we talked about the gap between where you are currently, your current reality, and where you want to be, the desired reality. So there's that gap. And so on that train ride, I couldn't help but think of the gap that I was currently facing. So it was a 3-week, international work adventure, various countries, not a lot of control on our part. We were at the whim of others. Logistics were planned out by someone else. So, we were, part of the crew. So it wasn't something that we had control over. Where we ate, where we slept, when we would take a break, that was out of our hands. And something that we just didn't have control over. So for 3 weeks, I had neglected my health, my body, my physical, well-being, my mental well-being, my spiritual well-being. So much was neglected during those 3 weeks. Now, I'm not crying about it. I'm certainly not a victim about it. I could have done something while I was over there, but I was so exhausted and my body was so wrecked that it wasn't something that I was focused on. So I'm on that train ride and I'm thinking of the gap that I'm in from where I was 3 weeks prior to that trip to where I was at that moment on that 5-hour train ride. And what a gap it felt. What a gap it felt. It felt like it was the Grand Canyon between where I was and where I want to be. And so that's what mind the gap means is at least this is what I was inspired to use in my private Facebook group, was minding the gap between your current reality and where you want to be, your desired future reality. So there's that gap. So what do you do between that gap? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking of all the things that I'm going to do upon returning to the United States. I'm thinking of, okay, I'm going to get back onto my supplements. I'm going to get back on the Peloton. I'm going to get back to yoga. I'm going to get back to consuming, healthy foods to fuel my mind and my body. And so I'm thinking of all the actions that I'm going to take the second I land in the US. But as I was doing that, my brain was immediately attracted to the negative. It immediately wanted to bring up why I was in that state or why I couldn't be in that desired future state. Your brain is, for most of us, 99% of us, our brain is at a negative baseline. We immediately think of fear. We immediately think of, a threat. And that's just our primitive brain. And so that's something that I'm naturally at. That's my baseline. And so my brain was coming up with all the reasons why I should not, take care of my body, why I could not, why I would not be able to do that. Age came up. I'm in my 40s already. So, I could use that as an excuse to not do much. I mean, although I'm not an athlete, I'm not someone who's interested in running a marathon. I'm not someone who's interested in competing, but I work out for my brain and my heart, honestly. It's not even because I love food. I have to work out because of the benefits I get that my brain and my body gets. And so that is something that I have to do. And so here I am, my brain wanting to go into this negative space where, you're too old. So what? You're not going to run a marathon. Why do you have to do this? Don't bother with the struggle. And so it's something that my brain was gravitating to immediately. And so that's what I mean by minding that gap. So yes, there's action steps that you should take so that you can close the gap. But minding the gap is more so the mindset, when the negative thoughts, when the fear-based thinking, when the shame, when the guilt, when the self-sabotage comes through, what do you do to mind the gap? And so that's what we're talking about inside my Facebook group. So I thought this was a great opportunity for us to talk about it here on Lead with Intent. Because if you are a leader or want to lead your employees or your followers or your children or your communities, well, then you need to have some mental regulation. And so this is a way, something that you can use, a tool that you can use. So when you're trying to achieve a goal, or if you're challenged with something and you are trying to mind that gap from where you are currently to where you want to be, this is a wonderful tool for you to use. So again, it doesn't matter whether you are in my private Facebook group, self-empowerment group, or you're here with me now, discussing leadership tools. This is certainly something that you can use. And so that's what Mind the Gap is. And so it's the gap, again, literally the gap between the platform and the train in England. But in my case, and how I'm using it and how I was inspired to use it, was the gap between where I currently am and where I want to be, that desired future reality. And there's that gap. And what do you do to close the gap? And so let's talk a little bit about that. And so let me check in with you all very quickly. I'm seeing Patricia's here. Thank you. Oh, you're so kind. Let's see if we can pop in your comment here. She said, you got this. Oh, she's 48. Well, Patricia, I would not have guessed that. Excellent. And thank you for that encouragement, my friend. I always appreciate you and your love. Anna says, oh, so young. We are, Anna. And we are. I thank you for that. We are so young. Appreciate that. And so glad that you two are here. Some of my favorite leaders are here live right now. Now, if you're watching the replay, we love engagement. Comment please below, share with us how you're going to mind the gap. Use the hashtag mind the gap. And so let us get into how we're going to do that. So here is my first step. So if you are multitasking, please come back to me. I want for you to really pay close attention to the next few minutes. I'm going to share with you step by step so that we can mind the gap together, so that we can be successful together. So take out a pen and paper, or if you have your laptop, take out a Word document or a page on your Mac. So let's start with step 1. Identify the challenge. So what are you challenged with? Like I gave you my example. For me, it's, my physical well-being. The thoughts that were going through my mind as I was on that 5-hour train ride. What were the actions I was going to take, as soon as I got to the US. So I'm challenged with my physical well-being. So what is your challenge? Is it related to the workplace? Is it, a career promotion? Is it career advancement that you're challenged with? Perhaps it's education. Perhaps it's training. Perhaps it's acquiring the right skills so that you can move up that career ladder. Or what if it's something personal? Perhaps it's an intimate relationship. What if it's, we're looking for that one right now? Or perhaps it's, you're challenged in a relationship that you are not fulfilled in. What are you challenged with at this moment? It can be career, it can be professional, or it could be personal. Like for me, it's my physical well-being. So what is it for you? And jot that down. Be honest with yourself. You're going to have some courage here. So jot that down. So that's the first thing, identifying your challenge. So now let's look at step number 2. I want for you, now step 2 has 2 parts. I want for you to describe your current reality. Remember, we're talking about the gap the gap between where you're currently at and the desired future reality. So there's the gap. So describe your current reality for me. Remember, this is private. This is for you, for your eyes only. But so you're going to have to be vulnerable and you're going to have to be courageous here. So describe your current reality and jot down your frustrations, your pain points, the challenges. What are you struggling with emotionally, personally, physically? What does your current reality feel like right now? It shouldn't be difficult because you are living it. So that's part one. Now the second part that's part A. Second part B to step 2, I now want you to describe your desired reality. So here you were describing your current reality. Very easy because we're living it. What does the desired future reality feel like? So here is where I want for you to step into that new reality. What does it feel like? Does it feel like accomplishment? Does it feel like fulfillment? Does it feel like pride? What does that future desired reality feel like? And describe it. It may take a little effort here because again, your brain is stuck on the current reality. But I want for you to practice some visualization here. And I want for you to jot this down. It's important that you put your thoughts to paper or to a Word document. What does that future desired reality feel like? You know, for me, going from feeling wrecked and really exhausted and really ragged, no supplements in my body. My body was aching at that point. It was inflamed at that point. I had taken 0 supplements for 3 weeks. I had not eaten well. I had wine at every sitting. When you're in France, what do? You drink some wine and have a ton of baguettes and a ton of bread. So my body was feeling the effects of neglect for 3 weeks. So for me to envision what my desired future reality felt like was very easy for me because I had lived there. I was there at one point and it felt like vigor and it felt like energy and it felt like, fulfillment. And so I stepped into that desired future state and I felt it and I lived in it and I'm reveling it actually as we speak. And so that is what's going to carry you through in helping you close that gap. So going back to step 1, identifying your challenge, be honest, be courageous, be brave right now. Step 2 has 2 parts. Part 1 is describe your current reality. Be honest. You're living it. It should be easy for you to describe. Step 2, part B is describing that desired future reality. So that may be a little more effort. But if you want it badly enough, your body will just envelop in it and feel those emotions, even though you haven't lived through it yet. So that's step 1, step 2, and step 3. Let's go to step 3. I'm going to go ahead and take these off, and then I'm going to check your comments in just a second. And I'll do step 3 before we check comments, because I'm seeing Patricia coming through here. Awesome. So step 3. So we did step 1, step 2, now step 3. Answer these questions. What actions can you take to close that gap? What are some simple, easy steps that you can take to start closing that gap from your current reality to your desired future state? What can you do to start closing this gap? The second question is, what resources or support systems will you need to help you close the gap? Perhaps it's an understanding spouse. Or, having to eliminate the enablers in your life. Perhaps it's, just shutting down for a little bit from, your social circles so that you can focus on what's important to you. Perhaps that's the support you need. Who will you need to become to close this gap? So will you have to become a disciplined person? Will you have to become someone who can practice restraint or constraint? Will you have to be someone who's accountable? Who will you need to be so that you can start closing this gap? That's what we need to start looking. These are the questions we need to start asking. So we know what our challenges are. right? We looked at our current reality. We're living it. We also looked at our future desired reality. We want that. So now these are the questions that are going to help you close that gap. And so I know this is a brief session today. I mean, I would hope we had more time so that we can actually go into some deeper, coaching together. But here are some, action steps that you can take already. So let's go, let's look at some comments. Here's Patricia. Yay, Patricia. Did you plan that into your vacay day even before it became chaotic? No, I didn't. And that vacation day, that one day we had to go tour the castle in Wales, was not even planned. Honestly, that was such a nice surprise. And so no, I did not. Even before I left the US, I took some workout gear with me, my running shoes. But because we were so busy and because, we had no control over our schedule, I didn't plan, to not have any time while we were, in Europe. The things I missed were my supplements and eating very healthy. And she also writes, I love this, Patricia. Thank you for sharing your comments. Love this. So useful for any challenge you have resistance with. I know that is what challenges are, but when you hit a level of pushing through, the resistance can come later into pushing through. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Absolutely. There's so much resistance that our brain, it naturally gravitates to. I mean, sure, we've got social restraints, we've got social forces, external forces that, aren't in our favor, but we alone are doing a lot of damage to ourselves. If we could just rein in, right, to have some more emotional regulation here, we could be much, much more successful. Anna says, and thank you for joining me, Anna. I know it's your lunch and learn because you are probably at your work desk. As you look at your resources or support systems and they are people, how do you go about asking or talking to them about helping you close the gap? So Anna, this is such a great question. Some of our family members who are well-intended may not want the same for us that we want for ourselves, right? A lot of our close friends and family members may see change in you as a threat, perhaps. But if you have encouraging friends and family members, they're going to support you no matter what. But you're asking this question for a reason. So I don't want to assume anything, but I'm looking a little deeper into why you would even ask this. Yeah, it's important that we look at people that we can count on, not only in our personal lives, but in the workplace, right? There's folks in the workplace that don't want to see us succeed. I know this firsthand. I've got clients that I consult with. And so these are things that we are faced with. And so you have to be intentional, right? We have to be purposeful with who we speak to about our goals and our desired future realities. I mean, this is real. So I hope I was able to answer your question, Anna. Patricia says, multi-level, set the mindset. Reword positive things. Yeah, positive things shift faster. In her experience, I'm going to use this to work through a few fears I'm encountering. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today, Patricia. Yes, I'm hoping that this is helpful for everyone. And I want to recap so that those that are joining us now, we talked about minding the gap, right? The gap between our current reality and our desired future reality. We talked about we're taking some steps here. Step one is identifying the challenge. We know what we're challenged with. We know what we're faced with, and we know, where we want to go. So take out a pen and paper or a page on your Word document or on your Mac. I want for you to be honest and brave here. Identify that challenge and write that down. Step 2, part A, describe your current reality. You're living it. It shouldn't be difficult for you to describe it. Share your challenges, share your frustrations, share your pain points. What is this doing to your life? What is it costing you at this moment? So describe it in detail what your current reality is. The next part to step 2 is now describe your desired future reality. Let's just describe that in detail. So step into what that future reality is going to feel like, and jot that down, because that you're going to go back to that desired future reality. You're going to go back to what you wrote, so that you can, when times get tough, you'll be able to close that gap. And so that's step 2. Now let's do step 3. Here were those questions that I asked, and I'm sorry that these are in my face, but we're gonna move these over. So if you're joining us now, you'll get to see this, and then replay. You guys will have this from the very beginning, but I'm recapping now so that I don't keep you guys on any longer. So step 3. So we did step 1 and 2. So now, what are the actions you're going to take to close that gap? What are the simplest, smallest steps that you can take to start closing that gap? And what are those resources or support systems you will need to close the gap? Who will you need to, avoid during this challenge? Who will you need to talk to during this challenge? Who will be, in your corner during this challenge? Be selective. Practice discernment here. Not everybody wants to see you succeed. Unfortunately, that is the truth, either at work or in your immediate families. So be very particular with who you share this struggle with and who you're counting on for support. And last, who will you need to become to close the gap? Will you need to become a disciplined individual? Will you need to become more accountable? Who will you need to become to close that gap from your current reality to that desired future reality? So those were the steps I talked about. And if you're joining us now, thank you so much. And if you're watching the replay, comment, let us know what you're minding. I want you to share with us how you're going to mind the gap. And I see some comments. Anna's here. No, Anna is here. Yes, Anna is at, yes, thank you. It is work related. So we'll be talking soon, Anna. Patricia acknowledges Anna. She said, good question, Anna. Anne is here. Sorry I'm late. I actually had to do some work. I understand. Don't worry about that, Anne. I appreciate you coming by. And Gabriela, hola. I'm so happy you're here. And yes, watch the replay, Gabriela and everyone else who's joining us, because I just went through where I was inspired to come up with the Mind the Gap. It's now something I'm going to incorporate into my coaching practice, everyone. So at the top of our time together, I mentioned that we are doing a challenge inside the private Facebook group, Align 365, and Mind the Gap is something that I presented to the group a few days ago. And so I thought I would then present this to our leaders who watch Lead with Intent here with me on a weekly basis. As you all know, Lead with Intent is a weekly show I do here on my public Facebook page. We talk about the mindset, the skill set, and the behaviors that conscientious leaders take. And so this is a tool that anyone can use, whether you're using this for, personal empowerment, or you're using this in the workplace as a leader. These are tools that you can use to help in the mindset game. So again, Mind the Gap is regarding the gap between your current reality and your desired future reality. So watch the replay at from the top of this show so that you can hear the story I shared regarding where I got this from. And before I let you all go, here are my parting words. So if you're in this to win this, then you're ready to get to work. You already have these 3 steps. If you want more support, we're inside the private Facebook group. Join us in there. We would love to have you and welcome you into our group. It's a group of deliberate creators. We deliberately and intentionally create a life that we love because we deserve it. And that's where we do the work, inside that Facebook group. So if you're looking for more support, we are in there waiting for you. And I will make sure that we post a link so that you can join us immediately. It's free and we don't bite. We actually, lots of hugs are given, right, Patricia? We are big huggers in that group. So please join us in there. So here are my parting words for you. I want for you to practice self-compassion. So anytime that you are needing to change a behavior, it all starts from the mindset, right? It all starts from subconscious programming, and to bring conscious awareness to it is the second step, right? So finding awareness and then taking those action steps to change that behavior. So when that happens, the brain wants to put a halt. It puts a brake on your plans because the brain it's a beast, and there's no match for that brain of ours. So I want for you to practice self-compassion when failure happens. So when things don't go your way, I don't want for you to quit altogether. First of all, I want for you to have some compassion. I want for you to just, revel in the progress that you've made, whether it's small, whether it's minute, or whether it's a long stride that you've made, wherever you're at. I want for you to revel in that accomplishment. So practice some self-compassion when things don't go your way. And secondly, I want for you to eliminate the all or nothing attitude. How many of us who are, in a weight loss challenge or, doing something for our physical well-being, where, if you fall off the wagon, so to speak, you then destroy the whole day. You then turn it into, a giant reason for you to keep eating badly or make bad choices. So eliminate the all or nothing attitude. So here's an example for you. I have date night tomorrow night with my husband. So knowing that I have date night, which means a really great meal, which means some wine and probably some really great dessert, I am going to be very intentional and conscious in what I do tomorrow, what I have for breakfast, what workouts I do, what supplements I'm going to take. So I'm going to be very intentional in what I do because I know I'm going to have this amazing, time with my husband. And so that I can be in the moment. I don't want to feel guilty about having this delicious meal with him. I want to be mentally prepared for it. So I don't want to ruin the entire day because I'm going to have one meal that is, is not part of the agenda. So, I just don't want for you to scratch everything, because of one missed opportunity, or, that's something that, especially those of us, during weight loss challenges, we like to lean on. It's like, well, might as well cheat the whole day. Might as well eat however I want, not exercise because, I already ruined it. So eliminate that. And you can incorporate that, into anything. That's a strategy that you can use into any, not just weight loss. Okay, I'm going to just check in with comments here, everyone, and then I'm going to let you all be because I've been on for about 30 minutes now. Let's see, Gabriela, yesterday, I somewhat fell off the wagon and got back on again today. Exactly. That's it. So it's not that it's all or nothing attitude needs to be eliminated. And that's exactly what you did. You got back on, after a very, very minor slip up, I'm sure. Gabriela, I'm sure of it. Thank you, Anna. Very good information. Another tool I can add to my toolbox. You're so welcome. I'm so happy that you were here, and everyone else who's joined us, who jumped on a little late. Watch the replay. I talk about what Mind the Gap is and how I was inspired to use that as a coaching tool. So I will also leave you guys a link to join our private Facebook group, Align 365. We're in there. We're waiting for you right now. We'd love to have you join us. We're doing an April challenge right now where we talked about how to mind the gap. And we'd love to have you. And one last thing, comment below. Use the hashtag mind the gap. And tell me one thing you're going to do to mind the gap. Just one simple technique, simple thing you're going to do. It could be an action. You could share with me a support system or a resource you're going to use to mind the gap, but use the hashtag mind the gap. And as always, I appreciate you all. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Gabriela. Thank you, Anna, for being here. And Patricia, love you all so much. We'll see you guys next Thursday, 1 p.m. Central, right here on my public Facebook page. See you guys then. Take good care. Bye.